As he gets home, he quietly parks the car and walks in the house. He goes to his room and puts himself to bed. The next morning, he hears his mother screaming outside. Meanwhile, Charlie's head is back in the freeway rotting. His mother mourns her death the entire day. While Peter is standing in the hallway, they bury her and she cries some more. The next day at school, Peter zones out during class and keeps replaying the moments. During break time, he smokes cannabis to hopefully calm his thoughts and nerves. He gets pain in his throat and tells his friends he feels like his throat is closing up. He goes back home in the evening and can't see his mother in the car watching him. He walks in the house and Annie turns the car on and drives off. She thinks of going to therapy but decides not to. As she leaves, she's stopped by a lady who attends with her and introduces herself. She asks if she's doing better since her mother passed on. Annie tells her things got worse for her because now her daughter got killed. The lady shares her condolences and asks her to have coffee with her at her house. Annie refuses and tells her she has to leave. The lady stops her and says her son died. That strikes Annie and she feels sorry for her. They quickly bond over their losses and she gives Annie her number and address if she ever needs someone she can talk to. Annie thanks her and drives off. She gets home and finds Steve. He asks her where she's been. She lies and says she was at the movies. He believes her and they go to bed. Steve tries touching her but she gets up and says she's going to the treehouse to sleep there. Steve doesn't understand why she's cold towards him but tells her it's fine if she goes there. Peter sees that his mom is in the treehouse. He hears a clicking sound in his room and that scares him. As he's trying to figure out what it was, he sees someone crouched behind a chair and gets startled. The next day, Annie goes back to working on her projects but she drops her paint and quickly cleans it up. She goes to the lady she met yesterday. As she knocks on her door, the woman warmly welcomes her. She tells the lady that her mom had the welcome mat that she has. The woman says that's a coincidence. The woman tells Annie to sit. She tells the woman about the horrific incident she saw the day she found her daughter's headless body. She tells her she had a feeling that something was wrong. The woman asks how her relationship with her son is. She says she used to sleepwalk and tells her a few years ago she went up to her son's room and found herself standing next to Peter covered in a thinner while holding a match. He woke up and screamed, and that woke her up and she put the match out, telling the woman she tried convincing everyone in the house that she was sleepwalking. She tells the lady that incident caused her and her son to have a strange relationship afterwards. Peter gets home and his father asks if he signed up for therapy. He says he'll sign up tomorrow. His father tells him he has to make sure he does. Steve walks in Annie's office and sees her crafting the incident that happened. He gets annoyed and asks her what does she think their son will feel if he sees it. She says it's not about him. Steve tells her he made dinner and she has to come and eat with them. At the dinner table, things are awkward between the family. Peter tells his father the food is delicious. Annie laughs and Peter looks at her and asks her if she's well. He asks his mom if she wants to say anything. They argue and Steve tries breaking the argument. Peter insults his mom and she explodes saying he should never talk to her like that because she's his mother. She brings up the fact that he accidentally killed his sister. She explodes some more blaming him for the pain she feels. She calms herself and sits down. Steve tells them to stop and Annie gets up and leaves the table. The next day, Annie walks out of the store and sees Joan. She hugs her and tells her that something happened to her and it took her pain away. Annie asks what happened. Joan says she went to a spiritual medium and tells her the woman brought back her son and she communicated with him. She tells her that her son told her he was in heaven and that made her release the pain she has. She convinces her to come to her apartment and communicate with her loved ones. They get there and Joan calls on her grandson. She tells her grandson if he's here he should slide the glass. Something moves it and it frightens Annie. She continues telling the spirit to slide the glass and something touches Annie. Joan places a chalkboard and tells it to write something. It moves the chalk up and down. Annie gets emotional. She tells Joan to stop the session because she can't handle this. Joan gives her instructions to communicate with her daughter. She tells her every member of her family has to be there. Annie agrees and leaves her house. In the evening, she wakes everybody up. They get to the lounge and she pleads with them to sit down, but Steve and Peter are optimistic. Peter agrees to see what his mother is trying to do. She holds their hands and she calls for Charlie. She calls on her again. Peter hears something behind him. Annie says if she's in the room she has to move the glass. A few minutes later, the glass moves, leaving everyone in shock. She takes Charlie's book and tells her to write on it. Steve tries closing the book. Annie forces everyone to continue but Steve refuses. Out of nowhere, glass gets broken behind them, scaring everyone. The candle fires up. Steve checks under the table and sees Annie chanting. She changes her voice into a little girl. Peter tells her to stop because she's scaring them. Steve turns the lights on. and throws water on her,